What if I told you that a billionaire woman spent months tormenting her daughter's gymnastics coach, calling her trailer trash, and demanding she be fired, only to discover through a shocking DNA test that the coach was her identical twin sister? What if the woman who had everything and the woman who had nothing were separated at birth, and fate brought them back together in the cruelest way possible? Before we dive into this incredible story of privilege, family secrets, and the shocking moment when two worlds collided, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This story will change how you think about success, family, and the role that luck plays in our lives. Your support helps us bring you more jaw-dropping stories that reveal the hidden connections that shape our world. This is the story of Victoria Sterling, a self-made billionaire who built an empire from nothing, and Sarah Mitchell, a dedicated coach who fought for everything she ever achieved. For 45 years, they lived completely different lives, never knowing they shared the same DNA, the same birthday, and the same face. But when Victoria's cruelty towards Sarah reached its peak, a medical emergency would reveal a truth so shocking that it would shatter everything both women thought they knew about themselves, their lives, and their family. 1. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Victoria Sterling's penthouse office, casting golden light across the mahogany desk, where she reviewed the quarterly reports that had just made her the youngest woman to reach a net worth of $2.8 billion. At 45, Victoria had built Sterling Enterprises from a small consulting firm into a global empire spanning technology, real estate, and renewable energy. But today, her mind wasn't on profit margins or market expansion. Today was about Emma. Victoria's 16-year-old daughter was competing in the regional gymnastics championship, and Victoria had cleared her entire schedule to be there. Emma was everything to her, the one pure, perfect thing in a life built on calculated risks and ruthless business decisions. "Mrs. Sterling?" Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Your car is ready. The driver says traffic is light, so you should arrive at the gymnasium with time to spare." "Thank you, Jennifer. And remember, no calls during the competition unless it's a genuine emergency." Victoria gathered her things, checking her reflection in the mirror behind her desk. Even at 45, she was striking, tall, elegant, with sharp cheekbones and piercing blue eyes that had intimidated countless boardroom adversaries. Her platinum blonde hair was pulled back in a perfect chignon, and her designer suit probably cost more than most people made in a month. She'd worked hard for this life, this success, this ability to give Emma every opportunity she herself had never had. Growing up as an adopted child in the Sterling family had given her advantages, certainly, but she'd multiplied those advantages through sheer force of will and an uncompromising drive for excellence. The drive to the elite gymnastics academy took 30 minutes through Manhattan traffic. Victoria used the time to review Emma's training schedule and competition goals. Her daughter was talented, genuinely gifted, but talent alone wasn't enough. It required the right coaching, the right environment, the right support system, which was why Victoria was so particular about the people in Emma's life. The gymnasium was buzzing with activity when Victoria arrived. Parents filled the bleachers, coaches huddled with their athletes, and the air hummed with nervous energy. Victoria found her usual seat in the VIP section. A donation of $50,000 to the academy had ensured she always had the best view. "Victoria," called Margaret Whitman, another gymnastics mother whose husband owned a chain of luxury hotels. "Emma looks wonderful today. So focused." "She's been training 6 hours a day," Victoria replied, scanning the floor for her daughter. "I've made sure she has everything she needs to succeed." That's when she saw her. The woman was standing near the balance beam, talking to a group of young gymnasts with an animated enthusiasm that immediately grated on Victoria's nerves. She was about Victoria's age, maybe a little younger, with shoulder-length brown hair that looked like it had been cut at a strip mall salon. Her clothes were clean but clearly inexpensive, discount store athletic where that had seen better days. She drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic that Victoria had noticed in the parking lot, rusted around the edges and held together with determination. "Who is that?" Victoria asked Margaret, nodding toward the woman. "Oh, that's Sarah Mitchell. She's the new coach they hired last month. I heard she came from some public school program upstate." Victoria's jaw tightened. Public school. Apparently she has quite a track record with developing young talent. But Margaret lowered her voice conspiratorially. "She's not exactly what you'd expect at a facility like this." Victoria studied the woman more closely. Sarah Mitchell was animated as she demonstrated a technique to the girls, her face lighting up with genuine passion for the sport. But Victoria saw only the cheap clothes, the worn shoes, the lack of polish that she expected from anyone involved in her daughter's training. "Emma," Victoria called out, waving her daughter over. Emma Sterling was a beautiful 16-year-old with her mother's sharp features, but a warmth in her eyes that Victoria sometimes envied. She bounded over with the natural grace of a born athlete. "Mom, did you see my routine on the uneven bars? Coach Sarah says I'm ready to add a new release move." "Coach Sarah?" Victoria's voice carried a note of disapproval that Emma didn't miss. "She's amazing, Mom. She really gets the technical aspects, but she also understands the mental game. She's been helping me with my confidence issues on the beam." Victoria looked back at Sarah Mitchell, who was now adjusting the height of the parallel bars with the casual competence of someone who'd been doing this work for years. There was something about her that bothered Victoria beyond just her appearance, something familiar that she couldn't quite place. "Emma, sweetheart, are you sure she's qualified to be coaching at this level? This is a very important year for you." "Mom, she coached 3 girls to state championships at her last school. And she competed in college herself. She knows what she's talking about." "College where?" "I don't know, some state school." "But Mom, that doesn't matter. She's a really good coach." Victoria's expression hardened. "Some state school." No wonder the woman looked so common. The competition began, and Victoria watched with the intensity of a general surveying a battlefield. Emma's first event was the vault, and she nailed her landing with the precision that came from months of expensive private coaching. Victoria felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. This was what happened when you invested in excellence. But as the competition progressed, Victoria found herself increasingly irritated by Sarah Mitchell's presence. The woman was too loud, too enthusiastic, too unprofessional. She cheered for all the gymnasts, not just her own, and she had a way of connecting with the girls that Victoria found inappropriately casual. During a break between events, Victoria approached the academy's director, Robert Chin. "Robert, I need to speak with you about the new coach. Sarah Mitchell? She's been wonderful. The girls love her, and her technical knowledge is impressive. I'm concerned about her background. This is an elite facility. Our daughters are training for national-level competition. Shouldn't we have coaches who reflect that level of excellence?" Robert looked uncomfortable. "Victoria, Sarah's credentials are impeccable. She's produced results everywhere she's worked. Results at public schools are hardly comparable to what we expect here. I'm paying significant money for Emma's training, and I expect a certain standard." "What exactly are you suggesting?" Victoria's voice took on the steel that had made her billions. "I'm suggesting that perhaps Ms. Mitchell would be more comfortable at a facility that matches her background, and that we find someone more appropriate for our girls." Robert's face flushed. "Victoria, I can't fire a coach because you don't like her socioeconomic status. You can fire a coach who doesn't meet the standards of excellence that parents like me expect when we invest in this facility." The conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the balance beam. Emma had fallen during her routine and was lying on the mat, clutching her ankle and crying. Victoria's heart stopped as she rushed toward her daughter, but Sarah Mitchell was already there. "Emma, don't move," Sarah said, her voice calm and professional. "Let me take a look at that ankle." "Get away from my daughter," Victoria snapped, pushing past Sarah to kneel beside Emma. "Emma, sweetheart, are you okay?" "It hurts, Mom. It really hurts." Sarah stepped back but didn't leave. "Mrs. Sterling, I think Emma may have fractured her ankle. We need to get her to a hospital immediately." "I don't need advice from you," Victoria said coldly. "Emma, can you stand?" "Mom, I can't. It hurts too much." Sarah moved forward again, her concern for Emma overriding Victoria's hostility. "Mrs. Sterling, please. I've seen this type of injury before. If it's fractured and she tries to walk on it, she could do permanent damage." Victoria looked at Sarah with pure contempt. "And what exactly qualifies you to make medical diagnoses? Your degree from some community college?" The words hung in the air like a slap. Other parents and coaches had gathered around, and Victoria's cruelty was witnessed by everyone. Sarah's face flushed with embarrassment and hurt, but she didn't back down. "I'm qualified because I care about these girls, and I've been doing this for 15 years. Emma needs medical attention now. Don't you dare tell me what my daughter needs. You're nothing but a glorified gym teacher who doesn't belong in a facility like this." The paramedics arrived then, called by Robert Chin, and the focus shifted to getting Emma safely to the hospital. As they loaded her onto a stretcher, Sarah approached Victoria one more time. Mrs. Sterling, I know you don't think much of me, but I'd like to come to the hospital. Emma is my student, and I care about her. Victoria's response was swift and brutal. Absolutely not. You've done enough damage. Stay away from my daughter. As the ambulance pulled away with Victoria and Emma inside, Sarah stood in the parking lot watching them go, tears streaming down her face. She'd been humiliated in front of her colleagues and students, called names that cut deep because they echoed every insecurity she'd ever had about her background. But what hurt most was being separated from Emma, a girl she'd grown to care about deeply over the past month. Sarah had seen something special in Emma, not just athletic talent, but a kindness and determination that reminded her of herself at that age. What Sarah didn't know was that in a few hours, everything would change. A routine medical procedure at the hospital would reveal a truth so shocking that it would shatter both women's understanding of their lives, their identities, and their connection to each other. The woman who had just called her trailer trash was about to discover that they shared more than just a profession. They shared DNA, a birthday, and a face that was identical in every way except for the lines that different lives had carved into their features. 2. Manhattan General Hospital's emergency room was a controlled chaos of medical professionals, worried families, and the constant hum of life-saving equipment. Victoria sat in the private waiting area that her insurance and donations had secured, her perfectly manicured hands clasped tightly in her lap as she waited for news about Emma's ankle. The X-rays had confirmed Sarah Mitchell's assessment. Emma had indeed fractured her ankle, though thankfully it was a clean break that would heal with proper treatment. Victoria hated that the coach had been right, hated that her own maternal instincts had been clouded by her disdain for the woman's background. Mrs. Sterling? Dr. Amanda Rodriguez approached with Emma's chart in hand. The good news is that Emma's fracture is straightforward. We'll need to put her in a cast, and she'll be on crutches for about 6 weeks, but she should make a full recovery. Thank God, Victoria breathed. When can I take her home? Soon. We're just finishing up the paperwork. But I do need to ask you some questions about Emma's medical history for our records. Victoria nodded, pulling out her phone where she kept detailed notes about Emma's health, allergies, and medical background. She'd always been meticulous about such things. Any family history of bone density issues? Previous fractures? No, nothing like that. Emma's always been very healthy. What about her biological family? Any history of osteoporosis, calcium deficiency, that sort of thing? Victoria paused. Emma is adopted. I don't have access to her biological family's medical history. Dr. Rodriguez made a note. That's not uncommon. What about you? Any family history I should be aware of, in case there are genetic factors we should consider for Emma's care? I'm adopted as well, so I don't have that information either. Interesting. Well, it's probably not relevant anyway. Emma's fracture appears to be purely the result of the fall, not any underlying condition. As Dr. Rodriguez walked away, Victoria felt the familiar pang that always came when her adoption was mentioned. The Sterling family had given her every advantage, but they'd never been able to give her the one thing she sometimes craved: knowledge of where she came from, who she really was beneath the carefully constructed identity of Victoria Sterling, business mogul. She was lost in these thoughts when she heard a commotion in the main emergency room. Through the glass doors of the private waiting area, she could see a familiar figure arguing with the reception desk. Sarah Mitchell was standing at the counter, still in her gym clothes, her face flushed with emotion as she spoke to the receptionist. Please, I just want to know if Emma Sterling is okay. I'm her coach. I was there when she got hurt. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can only give information to family members. I understand, but I've been coaching her for a month. I care about her. Can you at least tell me if she's going to be okay? Victoria felt a surge of anger. The woman had some nerve showing up here after being explicitly. In cases where the birth mother couldn't care for multiple children. Sarah was crying now, tears streaming down her face as she stared at Victoria. All this time, all these years, I had a sister and I never knew. We don't know anything for certain yet, Victoria said, but her voice lacked conviction. The evidence was overwhelming. We can do a DNA test, Dr. Rodriguez offered. It would give us definitive proof. Victoria's mind was reeling. This woman she'd spent the last month despising, this person she'd called trailer trash and pathetic, could be her twin sister. The sister she'd sometimes wondered about in quiet moments, the family connection she'd never had. I need some air, Victoria said, standing abruptly and heading for the door. Mrs. Sterling, wait, Sarah called after her. Don't. Just don't. I need to think. Victoria fled the consultation room and found herself in the hospital's chapel, a small, quiet space where she could process what she'd just learned. She sat in the back pew, her hands shaking as she tried to make sense of the impossible. If Sarah Mitchell was her twin sister, then everything Victoria had said to her, every cruel word and dismissive comment, had been directed at her own flesh and blood. The woman she'd called a failure was the sister who'd been torn away from her at birth. But more than that, it meant that all of Victoria's success, all of her advantages, had been pure luck. She'd been adopted by the wealthy Sterling family, while Sarah had been lost in the foster system. Victoria had grown up with private schools and tutors, while Sarah had fought for every opportunity. The arbitrary nature of it was staggering. They'd started life as identical twins, and only chance had determined which one would grow up with privilege and which would struggle. Victoria thought about Sarah's old car, her discount store clothes, her obvious financial struggles. She thought about her own penthouse apartment, her fleet of luxury cars, her billions in assets. The difference between them wasn't talent or work ethic or moral character. It was pure random luck. Mrs. Sterling? Victoria looked up to see Sarah standing in the chapel doorway, her face still streaked with tears. May I sit with you? Victoria nodded, not trusting her voice. Sarah sat in the pew beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. For several minutes, they sat in silence, both trying to process the magnitude of what they'd discovered. I'm sorry, Victoria said finally. For what? For everything I said to you. For the way I treated you. If you're really mine. She couldn't finish the sentence. Sister, Sarah said softly. If I'm really your sister. I don't know how to process this. My entire life, I've believed that success comes from hard work and determination. That people who don't achieve what I've achieved simply haven't tried hard enough. And now you're realizing that maybe you just got lucky. Victoria nodded, tears finally coming. I was so cruel to you. I said terrible things. You didn't know. That's not an excuse. I should never have spoken to anyone that way, sister or not. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? Of course. What was your childhood like? With the Sterling family? Victoria thought about how to answer. Privileged. They gave me every advantage, the best schools, tutors, opportunities. They loved me in their way, but they were also very focused on achievement and success. There was always pressure to excel, to be worthy of the Sterling name. And you were happy? I thought I was. I thought success and achievement were the same thing as happiness. Victoria looked at Sarah. What about you? What was your childhood like? Sarah's smile was sad. Difficult. I was in foster care from the time I was 5 until I aged out at 18. Some homes were better than others, but I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. I learned early that I had to fight for everything I wanted. I'm so sorry. Don't be. It made me strong. It taught me to value things that can't be bought, kindness, loyalty, genuine connection with people. Victoria felt a stab of recognition. Is that why you became a coach? To help kids who might be struggling like you did? Partly, but also because I love gymnastics. I was good at it as a kid, not elite level, but good enough to earn a partial scholarship to college. It was my way out of the system. You went to college on a gymnastics scholarship? State school, like you said. But yes, I got my degree in kinesiology and sports psychology. I've been coaching for 15 years, and I've helped dozens of kids earn college scholarships of their own. Victoria felt ashamed of her earlier dismissal of Sarah's education and achievements. That's incredible. You've changed lives. I've tried to. It's not about the money or the prestige. It's about giving kids opportunities they might not otherwise have. They sat in silence again, both contemplating the strange twist of fate that had brought them together. Victoria thought about Emma, about the kind of person she was raising her daughter to be. Emma likes you, Victoria said finally. I like her too. She's a special kid, talented, but more importantly, she's kind. She treats everyone with respect, regardless of their background. She gets that from her birth parents, I think. I've tried to teach her about excellence and achievement, but the kindness, that's just who she is. Maybe she gets it from you too. Maybe underneath all the success and the pressure, you have that same kindness. Victoria looked at Sarah, really looked at her. This woman who had every reason to hate her, who had been humiliated and insulted, was sitting here offering forgiveness and understanding. I want to take the DNA test, Victoria said suddenly. Are you sure? I need to know. And if you are my sister, I need to figure out how to make up for 45 years of not knowing you existed. Sarah reached over and took Victoria's hand. We can't change the past, but maybe we can build something good going forward. Victoria squeezed her sister's hand, because in her heart, she already knew the truth. The DNA test would only confirm what she could see in Sarah's face, what she could feel in the connection between them. There's something else, Victoria said. If we are sisters, I want you to know that everything I have, everything I've achieved, half of it should have been yours. The opportunities, the advantages, the head start in life. You deserved all of that too. Victoria. No, let me finish. I've spent my whole life believing I earned everything through my own merit. But if we're twins, if we started with the same genetics and the same potential, then the only difference between us is luck. Pure, random luck. Sarah was crying again. I never resented you for having more. I didn't even know you existed. But I won't lie, it's hard to think about what my life might have been like if I'd been the one adopted by the Sterling family. And it's hard for me to think about what kind of person I might have been if I'd grown up the way you did. If I'd learned the lessons you learned about kindness and resilience and fighting for what matters. Maybe that's why we found each other now, Sarah said. Maybe we both have things to learn from each other. Victoria nodded, feeling something shift inside her chest. For the first time in her life, she was looking at someone who truly understood her, who shared her DNA and her birthday and her face, but who had lived a completely different life. I want to know everything, Victoria said. About your childhood, your struggles, your achievements. I want to understand who you are and how you became the person sitting next to me. And I want to know about you too. The real you, not the billionaire businesswoman, but the person underneath all of that. They sat together in the chapel, two women who had lived parallel lives without knowing it, beginning the process of becoming sisters. Outside, Emma was waiting for her mother, unaware that her world was about to expand to include an aunt she'd never known existed. The DNA test would take 3 days to process. But Victoria already knew what it would say. She could feel it in her bones, in the way Sarah's presence felt both foreign and familiar, in the way their voices had the same cadence when they spoke. She had found her sister. And now she had to figure out how to be worthy of that gift. 3 days later, Victoria sat in Dr. Rodriguez's office with Sarah beside her, both women holding their breath as the doctor opened the envelope containing their DNA test results. Emma was at home with a nurse, her ankle healing well, but Victoria had promised to tell her everything as soon as they knew for certain. Ladies, Dr. Rodriguez said with a smile, the results confirm what we all suspected. You are indeed identical twins. The DNA match is 99.9% conclusive. The words hit Victoria like a physical force. Even though she'd known in her heart what the results would say, hearing it confirmed made it real in a way that took her breath away. Sarah was crying openly now, tears of joy and grief and overwhelming emotion streaming down her face. I have a sister, she whispered. I actually have a sister. Victoria reached over and took Sarah's hand, squeezing it tightly. We have each other. Dr. Rodriguez gave them a few moments to process before continuing. I've seen cases like this before, though they're rare. Twins separated at birth often report feeling like something was missing from their lives, even when they don't know they have a sibling. I always felt that way, Sarah said. Like there was someone out there who would understand me completely. Victoria nodded. I felt it too. Even with all my success, there was always this sense of incompleteness. Well, now you have the chance to build the relationship you were meant to have from the beginning, Dr. Rodriguez said. It won't be easy. You've lived very different lives, but the bond between twins is powerful. After leaving the hospital, Victoria and Sarah drove to a quiet cafe to talk. Victoria had offered to take Sarah somewhere expensive, but Sarah had suggested this small place near the gymnasium where she often grabbed coffee between coaching sessions. I need to ask you something, Victoria said as they sat across from each other with their coffee. And I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course. Do you hate me? For having the life you should have had? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, considering the question seriously. I don't hate you. But I won't lie, it's hard. It's hard to think about what my life might have been like if I'd been the one adopted by the Sterling family. If I'd had the opportunities you had. I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you. But here's the thing, Sarah continued. I also can't imagine being anyone other than who I am. The struggles I went through, the challenges I faced, they made me who I am. They taught me empathy and resilience and the value of fighting for what matters. You're a better person than I am, Victoria said quietly. I'm not better or worse. I'm just different. We're both products of our experiences. Victoria thought about this. I want to make things right. I want to share what I have with you. Victoria, I don't want your money. It's not about charity. It's about justice. Everything I have, you should have had too. We started with the same potential, the same genetics. The only difference is that I got lucky. Sarah leaned forward. Can I tell you what I really want? Anything. I want to know you. The real you. I want to understand what it was like growing up with privilege, what drove you to build your empire, what makes you happy and what keeps you up at night. I want to be your sister, not your charity case. Victoria felt tears welling up in her eyes. I want that too. But Sarah, I also want to help you. Not because I pity you, but because you're my sister and you deserve to have the resources to pursue your dreams. What if we could do both? What if we could build a relationship and also work together on something meaningful? What do you mean? Sarah's eyes lit up with excitement. I've always dreamed of starting a foundation that would provide gymnastics training and college scholarships to underprivileged kids. Kids like I was. But I've never had the resources to make it happen. Victoria's business mind immediately began working. That's actually brilliant. We could create something that combines your expertise and passion with my resources and business connections. Really? You'd want to do that? Sarah, I've spent my whole life building wealth for the sake of building wealth. This would give it meaning. This would be something we could build together. They spent the next 2 hours planning, their excitement growing as they outlined their vision. A foundation that would identify talented young gymnasts from low-income families and provide them with world-class training, equipment, and educational support. They would partner with schools and gymnastics facilities across the country, creating opportunities for kids who might otherwise never have a chance to pursue their dreams. We should tell Emma, Victoria said as they prepared to leave the cafe. She deserves to know she has an aunt. Are you sure? This is a lot for a 16-year-old to process. Emma's stronger than you think, and she already likes you. I think she'll be thrilled to know your family. They drove to Victoria's penthouse together, Sarah marveling at the luxury of the building and the apartment. But Victoria found herself seeing it through her sister's eyes. The excess, the isolation, the way wealth could insulate you from real human connection. Emma was in the living room doing homework when they arrived, her casted ankle propped up on pillows. Mom, Coach Sarah, what are you doing here together? Victoria sat down beside her daughter, suddenly nervous about how to explain what they'd discovered. Emma, sweetheart, we have something incredible to tell you. Something that's going to change our family in the most wonderful way. Emma looked between them, curiosity and concern warring on her face. Sarah and I just found out that we're sisters. Twins, actually. We were separated at birth and adopted by different families. Emma's mouth fell open. What? That's impossible. We have DNA test results that prove it, Sarah said gently. Your mom and I are identical twins. Emma stared at them both, and Victoria could see her mind working, processing the implications. So Coach Sarah is my aunt? Yes, Victoria said. She's your aunt. Emma's face broke into the biggest smile Victoria had ever seen. This is the best news ever. Ayash tried to get up to hug Sarah, forgetting about her casted ankle. Sarah quickly moved to the couch and wrapped Emma in a warm embrace. I can't believe it, Emma said, tears of joy in her eyes. I always felt like there was something special about you, Coach Sarah. Like we were meant to be in each other's lives. I felt it too, Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. From the first day I met you, you reminded me of myself at your age. Now I know why. Victoria watched this exchange with a mixture of joy and guilt. Emma's immediate acceptance and excitement highlighted how wrong Victoria had been about Sarah. Her daughter had seen Sarah's worth from the beginning, while Victoria had been blinded by prejudice and class consciousness. Mom, Emma said, turning to Victoria with a serious expression. I need to ask you something. Of course, sweetheart. Were you mean to Aunt Sarah before you knew she was your sister? The question hit Victoria like a punch to the gut. Emma's directness forced her to confront the full extent of her behavior. Yes, Victoria said quietly. I was very mean to her. I said terrible things that I deeply regret. Why? Victoria struggled to find words that would explain her actions without making excuses. Because I judged her based on things that don't matter, her clothes, her car, her background. I thought those things made her less qualified to be your coach, and I was completely wrong. Emma looked disappointed but not surprised. Mom, You always taught me to treat everyone with respect. You're right. I didn't follow my own advice, and I'm ashamed of that. Sarah spoke up. Emma, your mom has apologized, and we're working on building a relationship now. People make mistakes, but what matters is that they learn from them. Are you going to forgive her? Emma asked Sarah directly. I already have. We're sisters, and family forgives each other. Emma nodded solemnly, then brightened again. So what happens now? Are you going to move in with us, Aunt Sarah? Sarah laughed. I have my own apartment, sweetheart. But I hope we'll spend a lot more time together. Actually, Victoria said, Sarah and I have been talking about starting a foundation together. To help kids like you pursue gymnastics, even if their families can't afford it. Emma's eyes lit up. That's amazing. Can I help? We were hoping you'd want to be involved, Sarah said. You could help us understand what young gymnasts really need and want. Over the next few hours, they talked about everything. The foundation, their family history, what it meant to suddenly have each other in their lives. Victoria found herself opening up to Sarah in ways she'd never opened up to anyone, sharing fears and insecurities she'd never admitted to herself. I've always been terrified that I didn't deserve my success, Victoria confessed as they sat on the terrace overlooking Central Park. That somehow I was fooling everyone, including myself. Imposter syndrome, Sarah said. I've felt it too in different ways. Like I didn't belong in the gymnastics world because I didn't have the right background or credentials. But you earned everything you achieved. You fought for it. And you built an empire from the foundation the Sterling family gave you. That takes intelligence and drive and vision. We both worked hard, Victoria. We just started from different places. Emma had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted by the emotional day. Victoria looked at her daughter and felt a profound shift in her understanding of what mattered. I want to be a better person, Victoria said. Not just for you, but for Emma. I want her to grow up understanding that a person's worth isn't measured by their bank account. She already understands that. She saw my worth when you couldn't. She's wiser than her mother. She's a product of your love, even if you've made mistakes along the way. Victoria thought about this. Sarah, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you want children? Have you ever thought about having a family? Sarah's expression grew sad. I've wanted children my whole life. But between my career and my financial situation, it never seemed possible. I've poured all my maternal instincts into coaching. You'd be an amazing mother. I like to think so. But life doesn't always give us what we want. Victoria felt a surge of protectiveness toward her sister. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe there are other ways to build a family. What do you mean? I mean that Emma already loves you. You're already part of our family. And if you want children of your own, we can make that happen. Adoption, fertility treatments, whatever you want to pursue, you don't have to do it alone anymore. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Victoria, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. We're sisters. We take care of each other. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights twinkle below them. Victoria thought about how much her life had changed in just 3 days. She'd gained a sister, discovered the arbitrary nature of privilege, and begun to understand what really mattered. There's something else I want to do, Victoria said. I want to find out what happened to our birth mother. I want to understand why we were separated. I've wondered about that too. I tried to find information when I turned 18, but the records were sealed. I have resources now that you didn't have then. Private investigators, lawyers who specialize in adoption cases. If she's still alive, we can find her. What if she doesn't want to be found? What if she has reasons for keeping the past buried? Victoria considered this. Then we respect her wishes. But don't you think she deserves to know that we found each other? That we're okay? I do. I've always wondered if she thinks about us, if she regrets giving us up. We'll find her, Victoria said with the determination that had built her empire. And we'll give her the chance to know the amazing women her daughters became. As the evening wound down, Sarah prepared to leave for her own apartment. Victoria walked her to the elevator, reluctant to let her sister go. This feels surreal, Victoria said. 3 days ago, I thought you were someone I wanted out of. My life. Now I can't imagine my life without you in it. I know. It's like finding a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. Will you come to dinner tomorrow? I want to cook for you. I want to hear more about your life, your dreams, everything. I'd love that. But Victoria? Yes. Can we cook together? I'd like to learn about your life too, but I'd also like to share mine with you. I make a mean lasagna. Victoria smiled. I'd like that. I'd like that very much. As the elevator doors closed, Victoria stood in her hallway feeling more complete than she'd ever felt in her life. She had a sister. She had family. And for the first time, she understood that the most valuable things in life couldn't be bought or earned. They could only be given and received with an open heart. Tomorrow, she would start the process of becoming the sister Sarah deserved and the mother Emma needed. She would use her wealth and influence not just to build her own success, but to create opportunities for others. She had spent 45 years not knowing she had a twin sister. She wasn't going to waste another day not being worthy of that gift. 6 months later, Victoria stood in the lobby of the newly opened Sterling Mitchell Foundation headquarters, watching as young gymnasts from across the country arrived for their first training camp. The building was state-of-the-art, with world-class equipment and facilities, but what made Victoria proudest was the diversity of the kids walking through the doors. There was Maria, a 12-year-old from East LA whose single mother worked 3 jobs. There was David, a 14-year-old from rural Mississippi who'd been training in his high school gym with equipment held together by duct tape. There was Aisha, a 13-year-old from Detroit who'd shown up to tryouts in borrowed leotards but had natural talent that took everyone's breath away. These were the kids Sarah had always dreamed of helping. Talented young athletes who deserved the same opportunities as children from wealthy families. Nervous? Sarah asked, appearing beside Victoria with 2 cups of coffee. Terrified, Victoria admitted. What if we can't deliver on our promises? What if we're in over our heads? Then we'll figure it out as we go. That's what families do. Victoria smiled at the word family. Over the past 6 months, she and Sarah had built a relationship that was deeper and more meaningful than any Victoria had ever experienced. They talked every day, shared meals several times a week, and had developed the kind of shorthand communication that only twins could have. Emma had been the bridge between them in those early weeks, her natural acceptance and love helping both women navigate the complex emotions of their reunion. She'd also become the Foundation's first junior ambassador, helping to design programs and connect with the young athletes they were serving. The kids look happy, Victoria observed, watching as Sarah's coaching staff welcomed the new arrivals. They should be. Most of them have never seen facilities like this, never had access to this level of coaching and support. Victoria thought about her own childhood, the private gymnastics lessons and expensive equipment that she'd taken for granted. I wish I could go back and tell my younger self how lucky I was. You can't change the past, but you can shape the future. That's what we're doing here. The foundation had grown beyond their wildest dreams. Victoria's business connections had opened doors they never could have imagined, while Sarah's reputation in the gymnastics community had brought credibility and trust. They'd partnered with schools and community centers across the country, identifying talented young athletes and providing them with scholarships, training, and educational support. But the foundation was about more than just gymnastics. It was about giving kids from disadvantaged backgrounds the same opportunities that Victoria had been given by accident of birth. Mrs. Sterling? Ms. Mitchell? A young voice interrupted their conversation. They turned to see Maria, the 12-year-old from LA, approaching them nervously. What is it, sweetheart? Sarah asked, kneeling down to Maria's level. I just wanted to say thank you. My mom cried when she found out I got the scholarship. She said it was like a miracle. Victoria felt her throat tighten with emotion. You earned it, Maria. Your talent and hard work got you here. But you made it possible. Both of you. Maria looked between them with the wisdom that came from growing up too fast. My mom told me you're sisters who found each other. She said that's why you understand about family being the most important thing. After Maria ran off to join the other kids, Victoria and Sarah stood in comfortable silence, watching the controlled chaos of young athletes exploring their new training facility. We did something good here, Victoria said. We did something together, Sarah corrected. That's what makes it special. The foundation had also led to other changes in Victoria's life. She'd restructured Sterling Enterprises to focus more on social impact, using her business success to create opportunities for others. She'd also begun the process of finding their birth mother, a search that had consumed months of investigation and emotional preparation. Speaking of family, Victoria said, I got a call from the private investigator this morning. Sarah's attention immediately focused. About our birth mother? He found her. She's alive, living in Oregon under her married name. She's a retired teacher, has 2 other children, are half-siblings. Sarah's face went through a range of emotions. Does she know we're looking for her? Not yet. The investigator wanted our permission before making contact. What do you think we should do? Victoria had been wrestling with this question all morning. I think we should reach out. Carefully, respectfully, but I think she deserves to know that we found each other and that we're okay. What if she doesn't want to see us? Then we respect that. But Sarah, what if she's been wondering about us for 45 years? What if she's been carrying guilt and grief about giving us up? Don't we owe it to her to let her know we turned out okay? Sarah nodded slowly. You're right. We should contact her. Together. That evening, Victoria, Sarah, and Emma sat around the dinner table in Victoria's penthouse, sharing a meal that Sarah had cooked. It had become their weekly tradition, a time to connect as a family and share the events of their week. How was the first day at the foundation? Emma asked, her ankle now fully healed and her gymnastics training back on track. Amazing, Sarah said. The kids are so eager to learn, so grateful for the opportunity. It reminds me why I became a coach in the first place. And how are you feeling about potentially meeting your birth mother? Emma asked Victoria. Victoria was still getting used to Emma's directness, her ability to cut straight to the heart of emotional issues. Nervous, excited, terrified. What's the worst thing that could happen? She could reject us. She could want nothing to do with us. And what's the best thing that could happen? Victoria thought about this. We could gain another family member. We could give her peace of mind about the children she gave up. We could understand where we came from. Then it's worth the risk, Emma said with the confidence of youth. Sarah reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Victoria squeezed her sister's hand, marveling at how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she'd been a successful but isolated billionaire who measured worth by wealth and achievement. Now she was part of a family, part of something bigger than herself. There's something else I want to tell you both, Victoria said. I've been thinking about making some changes to my will. Mom, you don't need to, Emma started. Let me finish. I want to leave half of everything to Sarah. Not because I feel guilty about our different childhoods, but because she's my sister and she deserves to have the security and resources to pursue her dreams. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Victoria, I don't want your money. It's not about the money. It's about family. It's about making sure that if something happens to me, you and Emma will be taken care of. It's about ensuring that the foundation we've built together will continue. What about Emma? Emma will inherit the other half, plus the knowledge that she has an aunt who loves her and will always be there for her. Emma smiled. I like that plan. Aunt Sarah is the best thing that's happened to our family. Victoria looked around the table at the two people who had become the center of her world. Emma, the daughter who had taught her about unconditional love. Sarah, the sister who had shown her what really mattered in life. I have a confession to make, Victoria said. For most of my life, I thought success meant building wealth and achieving recognition. I thought the point of life was to accumulate more money, more power, more status. And now? Sarah asked. Now I know that success means building relationships. It means using whatever advantages you have to help others. It means understanding that we're all connected, that we all deserve dignity and opportunity. You learned that from being my sister? Sarah asked with a smile. I learned that from finding my family, from realizing that the most important things in life can't be bought or earned. They can only be given and received with love. As they finished dinner and cleaned up together, Victoria felt a contentment she'd never experienced before. Tomorrow, they would contact their birth mother and potentially add another chapter to their family story. Next week, they would welcome a new group of young athletes to the foundation. Next month, they would break ground on a second training facility. But tonight, they were simply a family sharing a meal and each other's company. And for Victoria, that was worth more than all the billions in her bank account. The woman who had once mocked her daughter's coach for being trailer trash had learned that the most valuable treasures in life were the people who loved you unconditionally. She had found her sister, strengthened her relationship with her daughter, and discovered a purpose that went beyond personal achievement. She had learned that family wasn't about blood or money or status. It was about choosing to love and support each other, no matter what circumstances had shaped your individual journeys. And as she looked at Sarah and Emma laughing together over the dishes, Victoria knew that she was finally, truly successful. The end. She spent 45 years mocking people like her sister, never knowing she was mocking her own blood. But sometimes the cruelest words lead to the most beautiful discoveries. Sometimes the people we judge most harshly are the ones we need most in our lives. And sometimes, finding your family means finding yourself. I always wanted more family, and now I have an aunt who's also my coach. 2 years later, the Sterling Mitchell Foundation has helped over 500 underprivileged young athletes achieve their dreams. Victoria and Sarah work side by side, their identical faces now showing the same compassion and determination. Emma, now 18, credits both women with teaching her that true strength comes not from what you have, but from how you lift others up. The adoption agency that separated them has implemented new policies ensuring siblings stay together. The elite gymnastics facility where their story began now offers full scholarships to talented athletes regardless of their economic background. And Victoria's business empire has been transformed into a force for social good, proving that wealth without purpose is meaningless. But perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is watching two women who were torn apart by circumstance choose to build something beautiful together. They lost 45 years, but they're determined not to waste another day. Sarah finally has the family she always dreamed of, and Victoria finally understands that her greatest achievement isn't her billion-dollar empire. It's the sister she found and the daughter they're raising together. If this incredible story of separated twins, second chances, and the power of family moved you, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that it's never too late to change, to grow, and to choose love over pride. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever discovered something that completely changed how you saw your life? And remember, we never know what struggles the people around us are facing, so choose kindness always. You never know when you might be looking at your own reflection. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Your support means everything, and I'll see you in the next story that will restore your faith in the power of human connection. Don't forget to subscribe, because the most important stories are the ones that remind us we're all more connected than we think.